Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
Some more politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheer scenes.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching. We're in the
I've had at least one good line, and I'm done being work frustrated now. So this is
Your energy has changed.
Yes.
You were work frustrated.
It takes a minute. I was supposed to stop at 5:30, because we went and redid our like daily schedules, because we're now at that point where it's like, okay, all of our wedding excuses, holiday excuses are gone. We have to start living like we actually want to live for the rest of our lives. And so I was supposed to take from 5:30 to 6 as my, like, I'm sort of paying attention to work, but I'm really just de-stressing. I was supposed to be reading the Bible, which is even more like, I'm grumpy since I didn't get my Bible.
Oh,
time. Yeah, I know.
Anything between Andrew and Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
That is no bueno.
I'm just saying, man, I would probably be an awful person without Jesus. So, anywho. So yes, I was.
Hello,
grumpy.
everybody.
Hello. Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We are out of 2020. I will make the two jokes that I keep seeing go around. Well, one I've been seeing go around a lot, and one that I just saw on College Humor. So the first one is 2020 is over, but we are in now 2021. If you spell it WON.
Oh.
There he goes. There he goes. So yes, it may have. The other joke that I've been finding very entertaining was College Humor has this sketch series where there's like, if Google was a real person, and so people just sit in front of this guy at a desk and ask Google questions. And the latest one ended with Mayan apocalypse was the question. Was like the Google term the guy searched, and he's like, "Oh, it's 2012, we're safe." And then the guy asks, "Mayan dyslexic."
Nice.
Yep.
I like it.
Giggled about that one.
Yeah, those are good.
Significantly. So
I like calendar humor.
Mhm. It's very niche. I'm sure you don't get your fill of it very often.
Yeah, it is very niche, but there's also a thing called accountant humor.
Yeah, well,
if you don't like calendar humor, wait till you hear accountant.
oh
humor.
gosh, I don't remember what the joke was, but I do remember there being some like very like debit and credit-y jokes that I heard a couple of times, and I was just like, I don't like that those are funny. I don't like what that says about me that those are funny.
Do you get it? Yeah.
Yes, I was like, oh yeah, that is entertaining.
That's too funny.
So anyway, the big thing we're going to start off with today. We'll see where I have a sneaking suspicion that where it'll take us. The Georgia Senate election or races are being voted on tomorrow and the day after.
Yeah,
or is it just
tomorrow.
we expect to have the results by? I kept hearing the 6th is the big day.
Yeah, Georgia is lazy with their.
Yeah.
We know this. We know
Yeah.
this. They. It's a very leisurely, very southern.
They take their time.
Yeah. Can't rush them.
No.
And I think I do want to make mention. I'm glad we're back at it. It's great to see you. Glad to see you're doing well. I am. We're both. You are food deprived, and I am sleep deprived.
Yes.
So.
We're both trying to be better
responsible for
versions of ourselves, which means the shitty versions of ourselves have to get like caked off first, and that's a process.
Exactly, and we're exercising that demon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a smooth transition.
No, I am sure 6 months now from me will be very happy with me, but like today me is not happy with today me.
So, yeah. So I am. We are not responsible for the content of Friendly Argument tonight.
Are we ever?
Oh God, that's kind of true. Okay. Georgia runoff.
Georgia runoffs. I guess so.
Democrats.
What is maybe we should start with like the general question of what is our hope if our perspective side wins? What's our fear if our perspective side loses? Would maybe be a good way to start this out.
So yes, that is a good way to start. If you have thought about either one of those, I'm happy to defer to you.
Yeah, so I mean in broad brushstrokes, and we'll see if we get into any more detail. So if let's say if both Republicans win, we have a government, a gridlocked government, which I would argue is kind of the point of American government, is that there's never
The
like
point of American government.
yeah, is that you're never supposed one group is never supposed to have like like all of the power, right? So there's still like with a Republican Senate or controlled Senate, you're not going to get everything through. In fact, you'll probably get very little through because it can't get through one half of our Congress. So you seem like you disagree.
So I think of government as our car, and we have gas and brakes. But the world is continuing, and it maybe not a car, maybe a boat would be better. Like you can't go backwards. You got to keep moving forward. And if you just sit, that's dead in the water. So it sort of lends itself towards
and I think
because the world is progressing, whether we like it or not.
So I think that this is maybe where, and I don't know that this is necessarily where Andrew as the avatar is disagreeing with Jeremy as the avatar, so much as I think this is maybe an area where I disagree with, where Andrew disagrees with Jeremy, and that is that you constantly say we are the government, and I constantly say that's bullshit.
It's
other people. There are people who are in power who are representing us, but they are the government. And so
sure, maybe I think we are the government is very much, my extreme ownership. I think a more accurate way to probably put it is you get the government you allow. And
that's
so
fair.
It is on us, but I really want to feel that. I really want to. I want it to be hurt.
Which I think,
when it should hurt.
I'm sorry.
I want it to hurt when it should hurt.
Which I think that's fair and noble, but the problem is like my part of we in that is 1/350 millionth or something like that. So like I can own as much of that as I want, but I have to convince a ton of my fellow citizens that what's hurting us is actually the thing that's hurting us.
And what is that 1/300 millionth of what have you done? You've put together a podcast.
I did put together a yes, I did put together a podcast. I talk to people. I kind of keep up on the news. So, but yes, so that's fine.
That's a lot of ownership.
But I don't have the power to make necessarily decisions. I only have the power to persuade. So again, it's not. There is a tiny minority of people who actually have the power, who are the government, and then there's a bunch of us whose lives are at least well enough that we're not going to be like, yeah, let's go burn down all of our government edifices and start over again. I'm sure there's people who would like that, but there's not enough of us to do that. So I see how you're thinking about it, and I don't necessarily disagree with it on a broad brush stroke, but in practical matters, I just don't see that as a useful viewpoint.
Sure. I think it's probably a little high-minded, but I do think you get the government you allow.
Yes,
it's at least more accurate. So
yeah, well, maybe can I posit that maybe you should say we get the government we allow.
Sure. I would absolutely go with that. I absolutely.
Yeah. So again, in my idealism, and what I think that the founders really had intentioned was that no one group of people would get absolute power at any point. Like basically, we didn't want an aristocracy, and we don't want oligarchies, which I guess is just smaller aristocracy. But
yeah.
So like I said,
we've perfected the plutocracy.
Well, Hold on, let me make sure. Let me make sure I know which one that is. Plutarch. Like Plutarch?
Like Pluto, the planet.
Plutarchy. So philosopher kings.
No, I think it's more the wealthy or elite or
Government by the wealthy.
yeah.
Country or society governed by the wealthy. Well, I mean, yeah,
so
but what human endeavor hasn't eventually become ruled by the plutocracy?
Exactly. But capitalism has and I don't I own stock. I am a capitalist.
Mhm.
You know, so but the you can have plutocratic tendencies in capitalism, and we are very capitalistic, and I think a 2-degree shift would help us
I wouldn't necessarily
put more of
disagree.
the power back on that level. I think you and I would both want.
Mhm. Yeah.
But Georgia,
Yep. Georgia. So anyway, my side wins. I think we keep on doing. Basically, we get another 4 years of not much happening, and with slightly less yelling. Well, there might be more yelling, but there's not going to be. I think it'll go from "oh my gosh, the world's going to end" to more scolding. But that's just my conservatism talking.
you know, here maybe because I could totally see that, and I am loopy, so I'm not responsible for this. But really, honestly, what I think, no matter what happens, we win because the temperature is going to go down in the country. I think it's just going to chill out because you just can't get worse. You can't get hotter than having that dude in the bully pulpit.
So I think that I hope that you're right. I don't know. My suspicion is that you will probably be wrong.
I am a Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He may in fact be the closest thing we have to have literally elected a wet blanket.
Mhm.
Like you know what I mean? Like, so it's just, I think
I guess I'm yeah. I agree with you on that. I agree with you that I'm not concerned about the temperature coming from him so much as the temperature coming from his administration, like the Democrats in Congress and then and the news media, like news in Hollywood. Like that, and I would argue that's where a lot of the temperature has been coming from for the last 4 years.
You're
If you ignore Trump, he doesn't say anything.
yeah, exactly. If you just hit that mute button.
Yeah.
What a charmed existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, like I said, I
care,
hope
you know,
I hope that you're right. I don't think that is going to necessarily be how it pans out.
maybe I just,
because I think the temperature has been rising steadily since maybe Reagan, definitely Clinton and Bush too.
yeah, there's like a couple plateaus in there, but but Trump, no, there's no way that the person in the bully pulpit is going to be as just guns ablazing all the time. So even if you know, like Hollywood's just not going to go after Biden the way that it went after.
Oh, of course they're not going to go after Biden. They're going to
go after the media, you know, in
the same way they didn't go after.
So I think it's most very, 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 very likely to go down. So that I think is good for the country. I think we could use a little time to mend. I think we could just use a break, and if we get gridlock, I think that is, you know, I forget how many years, but they measure how many years before China overtakes us as the number one economy in the world, and it dropped. It got several years closer. I want to say 5 years closer, but I could be wrong on that. During the last 4 years, and so I think that's a good, I think that's a nice measure. Like if we could all get behind that, let's try to stave that off as long as possible. That would be healthy for us. And I think the more gridlock, they're gonna continue to catch up.
I mean, potentially. Yeah. I think that is a potential. I don't necessarily see.
And I don't think that's good for us.
I guess I don't see China, like I don't see China catching up with us as being I mean, it is a governmental problem because we like it's a geopolitical problem, it's a legal problem, but I
I
don't.
think we're so inwardly focused. We're not paying attention to the game on the field.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I would just maybe, I don't think that a Biden administration is going to necessarily be as tough on China as well any other administration.
You think he's going to be? Yeah, I mean, if we just be smart about dealing with China, I think we haven't done that in a minute.
No,
So.
well, I don't think anyone's really been smart with dealing with China since the 1600s when the Dutch and
The Mongols.
No, the Mongols were smart. No, the Mongols were smart with dealing with China. They just went in, they took over. They're like, we're in charge now, and then suddenly they were China. They were very smart with how they dealt with China.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the last time someone dealt with them smart. Like,
yeah,
you liked how they dealt.
Yeah,
with them.
but it's one of those. They are my understanding of Chinese culture, or at least the way I see Chinese culture, is that they, particularly since Europe came on the ascendancy, they've been kind of pissed off that they aren't number one. Quietly, and like with good reason. They were doing a lot of stuff more right than Europe was for thousands of years before Europe did it, but then they got mired in, and so now when Europe basically took over most of Asia, there's always been a chip on China's shoulder of like, no, we should be number one because we have the history and all that, and they look at things in a much longer and broader perspective. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's what my opinion on China and why they are probably going to always try to be superseding us.
Right. And I think that trying to stave that off as long as possible, and I think we should be a leader in the world, and I think we should strive to be a leader in the world, and I think the world is better off.
I agree
with us as leaders in the world, and I could be wrong on that, but that is definitely how I feel. And so my hope for the Georgia runoff election, like, how about that transition?
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. My hope is that we would, if we get all the same party controlling the, two houses in the executive branch, then we can start, getting some distance, more distance between us and
so
the
my
EU and China and all that.
Mm-hmm. So my question on that is, so if, let's say, because what I'm scared of happening is that if it's just one party in power, they immediately add judges to the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court gets watered down, if not switches to a more liberal. They then add Puerto Rico and DC as states, thereby basically gaining control of the Senate for potentially ever. And so it just we then become effectively a one-party nation. Is that something that you're okay with?
No, you need the gas and the brakes. You need the gas and the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's value to that. Brakes are if you've driven a car, brakes are important.
Correct.
But they're not what makes you go. And so you got to go. And if you got to go, you try to go as wisely as possible. And I don't honestly. Here's a question I would have based on what you brought up about the Senate and all that. Would you rather? What sounds more democratic to you, or what sounds better to you? Adding more states keeping the Senate as it is, or just getting rid of the Senate. I think it served a purpose.
Since I don't believe in a pure democracy, I don't think that is I don't see that getting rid of the Senate
You
as
like
anything but a bad thing.
You see that as a bad thing.
Yes. So there's the reason we are the United States of America is because the states are supposed to have a significant amount of power. And we've kind of, because we become one nation under God, like we generally tend to forget that, oh no, like our states are semi-sovereign. Like it's not like, so it's like in Japan, they don't have states, they have prefectures.
Yeah.
Which is like just an an executive administrative thing, but it all answers up.
And how valuable, so federalism. So how valuable is federalism? Because it seems like it's becoming, people talk less in those terms every day. They think less in those terms.
So I guess here's my question. Do you want Alaska ruling California? Like, let's just say Alaska gets really, like the people of Alaska get super, have a lot of fecundity, become super fecunded. They make a lot of babies.
Okay.
So let's assume, like, but they all, they maintain their same culture, right? Little redneck, pretty independent, like, or, let's say Montana. Let's say Montana, deep red, deep conservative place. Let's say they just have a bajillion kids in the next 10 years. And all of a sudden, the major voting bloc is Montana, right? Yeah. Do you want Montana and its values telling you, Jeremy, what you want to do or what you can and can't do?
Yeah, I don't mind it if that is, I like majority rule. And so I don't mind to continue the thought experiment of it, because that's what I believe you're getting at, and I like that. For it gives a lot of credit to the people involved.
But what if the majority is incredibly opposed to the minority?
Well, that's un-American. The American is
but what's to stop the majority? What's the majority? What's to stop the majority from imposing its will on the minority? If the minority has no place to go, that they're just like, it doesn't matter if Californians can't move out of California to quit being Californians.
Yeah,
because they're just going to be Montanans the entire time. What's there to stop it? Additionally,
I go back to the gas and the brakes. You need both. You can't have it, and you shouldn't have it just one way. And the majority should rule, and with respect to the minority, and that is, if that goes against my personal views, which it does a lot of the time, I am okay being overruled.
Okay, then that's fine. But I guess I don't. From what I'm hearing, I don't think that what you're saying is really giving the minority respect. Particularly, like if you're talking about like we need to have the gas, and if the minority doesn't want to go where the majority wants to go, and thinks that, particularly if we think we're driving in the wrong direction, that's not respect to the minority.
Yeah, we need to. Kipling, the Rudyard Kipling wrote "If." Trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. You have to allow for that. And that's being, I think that's very American, and I think that's very good. And I think that we have that in the system. I just think right now, particularly in the Senate, the way that it's set up, the minority is overrepresented. And so I think it doesn't have to be a total, like your thought experiment of just 0 or 100. I'm talking like a 2 millimeter shift where we.
But do you think that it will only be
progress?
Do you think it'll only be a 2 millimeter shift?
Sorry?
Do you think that, so the hypothetical that I just put out, that we add 2 states, the Supreme Court gets effectively packed, is that a 2 millimeter shift?
I think that all of those things together would be more than a 2 millimeter
I
shift.
think any one of those things would be a major shift.
And I don't know if I would call any one of them a major shift, but I don't, any one of them on its own without putting any weight on any particular one, I would weight it. But just for, again, the conversation, I do think that there's value to that, because we're not moving forward. Gridlock is not the point of the government. It's progress, doing the best fire.
If gridlock's not the point, like, but I guess my question is, if progress is the point of government, who gets to determine progress?
I think you got to go with the majority.
But who's the majority? Like,
it's up wherever it is on. So today it's the Democrats seem to have got they just won the majority of the presidential votes, and they have the majority of the House. And it's been many times in my life.
Do you think that the Democrats represent do you think that the Democrats represent the majority of will of all of those voters, or do you think that maybe some of that was Orange Man bad? Maybe that's not the right question.
Yeah,
I guess I'm suspicious that a straight yes, I voted for this person, or no, I didn't vote for this person is a will of the majority, particularly when we're in a republic. If it was a pure democracy and we were voting on every single thing, then I think that you would have a better argument. I also don't think that would be a healthy form of that's not a healthy form of government, particularly when you're talking to hundreds of millions, because all of a sudden everyone gets Social Security at 15 and no one pays taxes.
But we don't like taxes.
Well, we don't. I also don't like Social Security, but that's another issue.
So basically, I think we're gonna have to try some things. I think no other country has gotten as big and as awesome as us, and we have new problems, and that's a good thing. You want new problems. Mm-hmm. There's problems with everything, so we have to try some things. And do I think we should do all of those things that you just laid out? No, I don't think we should do all of those things. But I do see that there is the minority is overrepresented at the federal level, and I think that
so here, maybe let me ask
2 millimeter shift would be healthy. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask this question. So, and I don't think either of us have the data to prove this is yes or no. We never do. So there is I've seen, yeah. So I've seen a couple articles where it's like Democratic voters would have shifted their vote to Trump if they would have known certain facts about Biden beforehand that were not present in the media. Hunter Biden's laptop being the biggest example, because that was Hunter being investigated for a bunch of really sketchy stuff was in at least conservative news. Like all the stuff that CNN and MSNBC reported on after the election had been in conservative sphere for weeks before. But there was a thought that the news media didn't want to have another, we gave Trump we talked about it, but there is at least the thought, and I don't know how true it is, that the mainstream media was like, oh, we gave Trump the election last time because we dropped the Hillary email scandal right before the election, and that gave her it. But I'm starting to wander far afield. So let's just assume that that because information was suppressed, that the will of the people isn't actually the will of the people, because people would have changed their minds if they would have known stuff. Does that change your opinion on what should happen with, I guess?
So we're going for this thought experiment.
Yes.
The thought experiment is it is in fact not the will of the people to have a Democratic president, and
so let's go this way. What if, for whatever reason, the will of the people is not actual because the channels by which the will of the people are given are being sieved?
Sure.
right?
Now,
Is it
yeah.
is it not better then to have a minority have more minority power in case like the will of the people is not being done, Democrat or Republican?
Yes. So these are some of my absolute favorite political theory topics. You're talking Rousseau level now. This is really cool stuff. So the force to be free comment. I think that there are probably some situations where yes, you should force people to be free. I think that they are very infrequent. And I think that as even our smartest people, which I am certainly not, would probably not be able to identify them when they did happen. So it's yeah, I'm sure it can happen following the thought experiment. Do I think in those cases they should be forced to be free to follow the thought experiment? Yes. I don't know, have any idea what that would look like. I don't know if I could identify it if it happened, and I don't know if anybody could identify it if it happened. Like you're talking about an equation with 1,000 different X's
Vectors,
and Y's and Z's, and I mean, like, so that fun question, but that you can get a degree in it, but I don't know if how practical it is.
Okay. Well, and I didn't frame a very good question or thought experiment.
I thought I liked it.
I mean, you liked it, but I don't think that it was not a very clear, concise thought experiment.
Well, you're talking about very shifty, like you're talking about the media's influence. How much is it? Where was it? Who? You know what I mean? Like
it was. I guess my question was more of like it was the media and stuff was leading up to like here's an argument of things that are potentially happening to validate the thought experiment of is the minority not a check against against the will of the people being flouted?
Yeah, I think that's the break. That's your break.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess and maybe this is just a fundamental disagreement we'll have in that I don't think that there should ever be a go. I mean, I don't think there should be much government to begin with, but I think I'm always going to say, hey, there should be, like, even if the Republican Party had all then Congress had both houses of Congress. I wouldn't want us to have it because that's not like in the same reason, like as a Christian, yes, I would think I would like everyone in the country to be Christian, but that's not how America works. And I wouldn't want that to be how America works. Like that's not what it is. No. It's not even what we are to even add to it. It's not what we are as Christians are called to do. Yeah, I got lost.
No, that's the theme of tonight's party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as those things, those wouldn't be my hopes for. So as far as the Georgia runoff, if both the Democrats won and the House, Senate, and President were all Democrats, I would not want the court packing the 2 additional states. You know what I mean? Just like
okay, but that's not. I guess that's not what you want. But like, what's there to stop that from happening?
I think.
Is there any reason why that wouldn't happen? I'm pretty sure it's been talked about.
Well, the internet exists.
Yes, and hyperbole is a thing, but
I think I was really impressed with the state's attorneys when Trump got into the White House. Mm-hmm. I thought they were really effective in really, even if they weren't effective in changing what he did, just bringing those points up and keeping them in people's minds, and slowing down. Like the gas was sort of the brake in those situations where they slowed down the rollback. And so I think that is something that I think could be really effectively used. And the Republican Party is awesome at like aligning. You know, they got marching orders and talking points, and damn, I mean, genuinely, like that's not an underhanded compliment. That's the truth.
Yeah.
They're very much
Well, that's okay, because we would say that the Democrats are better at sticking to the talking points than the Republican Party is, but perception may be a bit of a bias there.
But just think of all the people in the Democratic tent versus the Republican tent. It's just such it's a homogeneous. Groups are easier to govern. They're more civil. Japan.
I would argue that the Republican Party is not necessarily a homogeneous.
More homogeneous than the Democratic Party.
Well, yeah, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by homogeneous. Like, are we ideologically more homogeneous? Yeah, I would say we probably are.
Yeah, that's so.
Or at least we traditionally have been. Yes.
And that's the alignment that I'm genuinely giving them credit for, because, dude, when they say they say and do, we're like herding cats. You know, it's can be disheartening.
I will give the Democratic Party is probably more herding cats.
Yeah.
Particularly these days when you have like the Bernie Sanders and AOC wing, and then you have like we're just like original Democrats, and then you have your like will to power players like Pelosi, and Harris. I'll say it both. I'm not scared. I will be scared.
I like Pelosi more than Harris, but
I don't know too many people who actually like Harris all that much.
I was not impressed. I haven't been impressed with any interview that she's given.
I don't, aside from the fact that she's
not any interviews. She said some things.
I mean, yeah, I just don't I don't understand why she's the pick, like why she was the political pick, because she didn't even make it to I think the Iowa caucus.
Yeah, bro, look who the pick was. Fair. I mean, come on, dude. Like, do you think?
Well, yeah. I guess I just don't understand. I don't understand why because I'm pretty sure that he picked her. I think he publicly stated he was going to pick a black female, and I was like, I don't understand why.
A woman, yeah. He
black female woman. Sorry, well, a black woman.
He didn't say black. He didn't. He just said a woman.
Did he? Maybe he did say woman.
Yeah,
woman for sure. I thought he said. I thought he also added black. Well, maybe he said minority.
Yeah, there were some really cool ladies in the running, as well as Kamala Harris. And I mean, she's successful. I wanted her Senate seat. You know, I was hoping to.
That is true. You know, the Jones Bernard dual ticket.
Are
we old enough to be senators yet? You're probably you're old enough to be a senator now, right?
Is it? I mean, it's like 35 for president. I think it's 35 for Senate.
I think not state government. I want U.S.
So while you look that up, I'm gonna state my my biggest fear is
25. We're both old enough.
Yeah, it's not a huge, and I don't even think you have to live in the state. You don't even have to be a resident. But so as far as fear is, if both the Republicans do win, the fear is China continues to gain ground and the EU continues to gain ground, and because of gridlock, because we sit and fight between two ends of the boat when we're in the regatta and not paying attention to the game on the field.
Yeah.
How many different analogies were in that?
I have at least 3.
This is a mess.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess and again, I think this is where we're going to have a fundamental disagreement, because I don't think that the U.S. government is what determines whether we're ahead or going ahead or behind. If we're gaining or losing ground on China and the EU, I think that's the American people are the ones who are going to do that, and they need to be let go to flourish. I mean, they need to be protected a little bit, but I think the people are going to be the ones who determine that.
I agree.
Yeah. And so it's like I guess I feel like if we don't have gridlock, the government's just going to get more and more in the way of that. I think we lose out to China and the EU. No, that's not true. We lose out to China. We don't lose out to the EU without gridlock.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hear the clock ticking, and I don't want that. I don't want it to happen in my lifetime. That's really why I'm here today. Is I don't want that.
You don't want it. I believe there's a Chinese proverb about better. No, actually, it's an American proverb. It's even better. It is. I'm going to probably misattribute it to Benjamin Franklin, but it's better to have trouble in my time that my children's time might have peace. So I'm okay with going through all this crap while it is my time, so that my children can have like a peaceful thing. So I'm sorry, Jeremy. You're gonna have to suck it up for the sake of my children.
Fair enough. I guess it's a cycle. I just don't know if it continues up after.
Well, the cycle of civilizations is you rise to the top in hobnailed boots, and you slowly descend in slippers. So we're pretty dang rich right now.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm wearing slippers.
Mm-hmm. I'm barefoot, so.
See, the 2021 equivalent.
Exactly. Did I wear hard pants today? Yes, I did have jeans on at one point. So.
You dressed yourself at some point?
I did dress myself to start the day, and then it got cold in my apartment.
You're
somehow I live in California, and yet it is freezing in my apartment.
Yeah. Well, California didn't always have the building standards.
No.
Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what happens with that? Depending on what's the future of the Republican Party, depending on the runoff wins and losses.
I don't know. I mean,
there's now the Republican Party in some ways. There's a Republican Party, and then there's Trump supporters. And that line seems to be getting more distinct from the outside looking in.
The line is getting a little more distinct because there's a lot of, I don't really like, I've seen a lot of articles about how like Trump loyalists are defending things, and I don't know how much of that is actual loyalty to Trump, or just, hey, we have to go through these processes in order to keep our constituents happy. I don't know if that may not be answering your question. I think.
I mean, is that a difference without a distinction?
I think it is, because I think there are a few of the politicians who I was like, I'm surprised are still doing this. And generally I found that they are political animals, but to a certain extent they have a tendency to at least do things according to their ideals. So I don't, like I said, I don't quite understand why some of the stuff that is going on in the Republican Party is happening.
As far as the continued Trump support, you thought it would have died off more by now?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, there is still a very big feeling within conservatism that the election was, I'm going to use the word rigged, though I think that may be too hard. Like, that might have too much baggage with it.
You have enough rapport to use the word rigged.
Yeah. So it's not rigged necessarily in the like the counts were off so much as there was not accurate and fair reporting, or that there was the ability for information to freely flow. And so Twitter and Facebook, like, suppressing certain stories, the news media, like the mainstream media minus Fox News, what their coverage of things, like there was just a lot of like, oh, hey, like this wasn't a fair it may have been a free election, but it may not have been a fair election, particularly because there was a lot of support for Trump. Like, I was kind of surprised. Like, I mean, it was very much the reversal of 2016, because there seemed like there was a lot of support for Trump then too, but it was one of those like, oh, hey, like there's no reason for us to lose. Like the groundswell's there, but
Yeah, and this election, just turnout alone
Mm-hmm.
was just so much larger than any other election.
Oh yeah, the person who has gotten the most votes in U.S. history is Joseph S.R. Biden in this election, and the person who's gotten the second most votes in history is Donald J. Trump in this election.
Exactly.
So it's like,
yeah, and even, even taking in like growth, like we had a large amount of the electorate turnout
mm-hmm.
for the U.S., which be careful what you wish for, because when I was in college, that was a big thing for me, was
Mm-hmm.
Voter turnout, voter participation, and now we have it, and it's for like all the wrong reasons. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm interested to see how this goes, because if it is, because this is why I think the government is the people, because if these Republicans who are still, sticking with on the Trump train,
mm-hmm.
if they're doing it because their constituents want it, that's the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how much of that is constituents versus like elastic. Like this whole election since November has been very confusing, and like why is any of this happening? So I guess I don't know how that. I don't think the Trump, like the diehard Trump people, will continue to be diehard Trump people. I basically I see two scenarios happening. One is the Republican Party ceases to be, because they are legalized out of being an effective national party, for the reasons I previously stated, with court packing and adding two more states. Two more states. So I mean, there is a potential that I don't know that that would necessarily happen. It is, I think, what has been semi-promised by the Democratic Party, so that is concerning. I
haven't seen those promises.
I will try to find some places where that's been stated.
Yeah. And then number two.
The number two. So assuming that we are still existing, like, so assuming that both Senate the Republican Party takes both Senate seats, I think Trump has fundamentally changed the Republican Party in that most Republicans I know are more polite about things, or used to be a lot more polite about things. And so like we take getting name called because it's like, well, that's just your opinion, I don't care. Whereas now we're kind of being like, okay, this is now an existential threat. Like, it's no longer okay for me to be me. And I think there's going to be a lot more punch back Republicans than there have been in the past.
Yeah, and now rarely do I blame the media for things, but I think that is 1,000,000% the media.
I would agree. Like, I mean, look, I mean, just you and I talking right here is like, what I believe. There we have very fundamental disagreements, but I still think you're my countryman and will continue to be. But but I also moved out to Hollywood because I was tired of being, like, even before Trump was the thing, I was just tired of being told I was a terrible person for holding the beliefs that I believed. And I was like, well, I can't complain about something I'm not trying to change.
For sure. The who would take the Republican Party's place if it did cease to exist?
I don't think anything would. That's why I'm concerned about it.
So the 50+1 electoral, your electoral process creates your parties. We have a 50+1. You're going to have two parties.
Maybe.
It's never not happened. Like, the electoral party always follows process. And so that's our process. So something would have to take its place unless we actually change the electoral process, which I think.
So maybe I didn't explain it well enough. I think the Republican Party will exist. It will just not be an effective party any longer. And I don't think that
effective party. How do you define that?
So they wouldn't be able to actually hold a majority in anything, or potentially even get the presidency any longer.
they just got a ton of votes.
We did just get a ton of votes. We did just have a major shift in the in the House. But what I'm saying is, based off of what I have heard that the Democratic Party wants to do, then it could very well be that we cease to have an effectively two-party system.
Have you ever? There's a psychology term. People will frequently hear one of two things: what they want to hear, or what they're most afraid of. Have you ever heard that before?
I mean, that seems reasonable.
And I mean, trying to be sober-minded about it, how I tried to talk to myself in 2016 was, we just did. I didn't feel an existential threat when Trump was elected. And now seeing your situation, like just sort of putting myself in the conservatives' shoes, you just got a ton of votes. You gained in the House, like so far from existential.
So I think that
why be afraid of that? That's
because there's 2 years. Because like I've stated before, I have seen in my experience, Democrats will do what they can when they have the power. Republicans have a tendency not to. And so there will be 2 years where they can just cram everything they want to through. And if there's a means, so like, yeah, maybe we'll get a few more seats, but if all of a sudden there's like 8 more seats and they're all going to be solidly blue, I'm not saying that it will happen. I'm saying that is a potential that concerns me.
Sure.
Particularly when asked about the future of the Republican Party. Like, that is a thing that I am concerned about. I don't know that it will happen, but I know that it won't happen if the Republicans win.
Gotcha. Like the likelihood of that would be like of the Republican Party going away after the 2020
I mean, it wouldn't be a
probability.
quick death. Like, it would be slow, but it would be effectively like, okay, well, the Republican Party is just never going to be in power anymore. It'll always be the minority party. And I could be wrong. Like, Trump won in 2016. Who knows? But
like, I thought you were going to bring up the Electoral College as a change, because I think that is
that requires a 2/3 majority ratification by the states, and I don't think they have 2/3 of it. And I also I mean, yeah, it would be losing the Electoral College. I think would be catastrophic for not only the country, but it would definitely be catastrophic for the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, that there's other ways other than like the constitutional amendment, the 2/3 vote. New York, and I believe New York, California, and a couple other states said that they would just
do the popular vote. Yes.
Yeah.
Which again, that's a state by state thing, so that can be changed. That can be changed a little more willy-nilly. Then you can effectively get rid of the Electoral College without legally getting rid of the Electoral College.
Right.
And I'm not as concerned about that because I think that is a thing that can very easily switch back. I also think it's really dumb because so if that was the law of the land and Trump had won the majority of the votes, California is all of a sudden voting Republican, and like all of a sudden that goes out the window.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you think they would?
They would switch it back. I think it's looking at the last 30 years and being like, well, we've always won the popular vote, so we'll just change this out because we think it's a thing.
Yeah. I mean.
I think if the roles were reversed, I don't think that I think that is a power politics play. I don't think that is a principle play.
So if it goes against their principles, they would stop it, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying like getting rid of the Electoral College and just doing the popular vote, like California doing that. I think that's a power politics move more than it is an actual principles move. Oh,
well. Yeah, I mean, I principally agree with it, and I don't know if I've ever lived in a red state, but
you should try it sometime.
I could see. I mean, I've been to Wisconsin a lot because just being from Illinois originally, but and I mean, now it's a swing state. Now it's more of a swing state, but
Like I said, you should move to a red state for a little bit.
park wherever
Yeah,
I
you
like,
like it.
huh? Just.
Yeah, people leave you alone. Don't really care about your business unless you're in a small town, in which case your business is everybody's business and their business is yours. But that's
Yeah,
just
that's
small town. That's small town dynamics, no matter where you go.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So how much further you wanna go with this?
With which part, the hypotheticals or?
Well, just so like, okay, yeah, like hypotheticals, like what does it mean? What does it mean historically for the United States? What does it mean uh, uh, for the people of it? And then kind of like going forward, what do you think it means for? I mean, I guess we've kind of covered. You're just afraid of like. I know you'd be like afraid of losing. Um, Keeping Roe v. Wade in place. You want to get rid of that. And other than that, like, is there like genuinely? I'm like, what would be the concern?
So the conservative concern is that we will no longer have effective representation within our government, and that there will be more and more
we conservatives. Like when you said we
conservatives, but more specifically, the fear is that the Democratic Party tends towards federal power over state or county or individual power. It tends to go towards communalism over, or at least communalism controlled by certain elites over the assumption of individual freedom and being left alone. And so the main fear of the conservatives of losing this race is that we'll start going on that path even more quickly than the slow slide we're already fighting against.
And that sounds bad.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely awful. I don't think that I should, as long as I can swing my fist around as much as I want until I hit somebody, and you shouldn't be able to stop me from swinging my fist around.
Can we put boxing gloves on your fists?
No.
No?
Why do you get to dictate how I swing my fist around?
You can like shoot your shot, but like, like just put a little buffer. Like, have you ever been cut by a punch? I've been cut by a punch. These knuckles and fingers and elbows, like.
No, I've taken a foot to the face a couple times.
I know you're a Taekwondo guy.
Yeah.
But that's gotta
be it. Just my eyes watered a lot. But that goes to my point. It's like, you don't have the right to tell me what I'm doing, as long as I'm not hurting somebody else. The moment I'm hurting somebody else, there's a significant issue, and like the social contract comes down hard. But
Sure.
You don't have the right to tell me what to do. I don't have the right to tell you what to do.
Is like a fail safe a moral, like you have a moral objection to a fail safe? Who's
doing the fail safe? Who's imposing the fail safe?
So you have, you have a kid swinging his arms around.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to swing them wherever he's going to swing them. You don't know what he's going to do, when he's going to do it. There's other people around. You don't know how it's going to go, but you can't stop him because that's his right to swing his arms around however he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So, after lunch, right before recess, you slide a couple, MMA gloves on his hands, so that, if he does catch someone, he's less likely to cut them, and less like it's like bumpers. It's a fail safe. If it does go wrong, it doesn't go catastrophic.
Okay, well, why don't I just, if that's the case, why are we stopping at boxing gloves?
Well, because it's not a slippery slope, which is a fallacious argument. It's just the.
But why? I'm not asking for a slippery slope. I'm saying, why is the line boxing gloves? Why do we get to determine where the line is?
You pose your frameworks, and I'm posing a framework, and I worked within your frameworks. And
okay, I'm just saying, like, I don't see why I'm saying I don't buy your premise, in that we get to put boxing gloves on the kid. or like why
Oh,
we get to
fail-safe or
choose.
not.
Yeah, like I mean, life is hard and full of like hard things. Like shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I like you got to live your life. I can't tell you how to live your life. If you want to swing your arms around, man.
And everybody just is now in fear of getting hit. That's, having their little tea party. They're not swinging their fists around.
Okay, well, as long as he doesn't hit him, what's the matter?
Well, he could hit them, and
He
so
could.
we have the ability of abstract thought, and we can think that could happen, and the more that we let it happen,
But I'm
let
saying
it
like
do that, the more
so
likely it's gonna happen.
but my original premise still stands. If he hits him, there's consequences. So
If he hits them, there's consequences.
yeah, he will avoid, in his self-interest, he will avoid hitting them so he can keep swinging his arms around.
So then it's okay.
He's not guilty of hitting someone until he hits someone.
Sure, but just letting, like, putting a buffer. So like getting hit in the face with a glove is unpleasant, but it's not blood usually. But getting hit with a hand, I've been hit with a hand, and I've been cut with a hand, and it's surprisingly easy to do. I felt quite like like it was how easily I was cut. So you don't. It's not okay just because we have that little bit of forethought, that little bit of.
So I guess maybe this is where we're breaking down. So we're talking about kids, right? Swinging their arms around. In this example, we would also be children.
Well, the teachers are the government, then, I guess.
Why? The teachers are just us. They're not any smarter.
The government's just us.
They're,
See, this is
they're the same type of they're people. They're not smarter than us. They're not wiser than us. They are just the same dinguses that we are.
Yeah.
So why do they're not old? If we're saying that they're the teachers, then the teachers are also 10-year-olds.
So you're not going to play within my sandbox that I created. I was happy to play in yours.
No, because you're not playing in my sandbox.
I know, but
because you're premising that there are people who are wiser, who should be able to impose fail safes. And what I'm saying is there's not people who are wiser or who have the moral ability or moral right to impose the fail safes. They can suggest things, but they don't have the moral right to do it.
Do you need the moral right to be able to? Do you need to be an all-knowing being to be able to, like, just anticipate, like, someone swinging their fists around, they're gonna eventually
hit somebody? No, you don't need the moral. You don't need the moral right. Like you don't need to be an all-knowing whatever to see, like, somebody swinging their fist around could hit someone. But if they don't hit someone, what's the issue? If Timmy's going around and swinging his stuff himself on that one side of the playground, let Timmy do it. He's not hurting anybody.
And there is assault is the threat and battery is the contact. Like, so that exists. Doesn't, I mean, so
yeah, but again, but I think
around someone swinging their arms isn't a terrible place.
That's, I guess maybe we're having a difference in what we're thinking here. I'm thinking of some kid who's just swinging his arms around, like, without concern for other people. Well, maybe a little bit of concern for other people, but just because he wants to swing his arms around.
We don't have the. I mean,
we don't know.
We have to assume zero concern.
Okay. Yes. So zero concern, but he's not like, oh, I'm swinging my fists around because I want to hit people. He's swinging his fists around, like,
sure.
That's what is having fun doing it.
Right, and so he can continue to enjoy all the parts of swinging his fists around. Do the gloves hinder that?
Yeah, I mean, if he's enjoying the feel of the air through his fingers and that's why he's doing it, then yeah, it does. I'm just saying we don't have a right. We don't have a right to do to.
But we also
to
don't need a right to do it.
Okay, so then why do
That
why-
was what you said. You said that we don't necessarily need a moral right to
put
put a fail-safe.
we don't need to be a moral. I was disagreeing with your moral that a moral being, like a superior omnipotent moral being, was the necessity of seeing right and wrong.
Okay, so to be able to anticipate that at some point this system of swinging our arms around with zero regard for other people is someone's gonna get hit at some point.
Potentially. And when they get hit, then there's consequences.
And we could lessen the consequences to the innocent bystanders, the non-swingers, let's call them, by
the Tea Partiers, I believe, was your initial example.
Oh no, I bully am in the schoolyard.
Yeah, I thought they were having a tea party in the schoolyard, but
oh, the kids having a tea. Oh, I thought you were talking about the.
Yeah, no, I did it to make you say that you were protecting the Tea Partiers.
Protecting the Tea Party. I am protecting the Tea Party.
Yes.
Just the people around that by no actions of their own have to deal with consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And
so in this scenario, it's known that there are consequences for hitting. So the assumption would be that this child knows. He wants to swing his arms around. He knows that if he hits someone, there will be consequences. Why are we stopping him from? Why are we doing anything past that?
Is there just consequences? He's the only one doing the swinging in the example, and is he the only one that's going to experience the consequences if there's a hit?
Well, I mean, the other person would get hurt, but there would be consequences for hitting it. But the consequences are worse for him than getting hit.
Well, we don't know that, do we?
I mean, that's the assumption. That was the baseline assumption in my premise, but
so it's okay to have you can do something that has a negative consequence for someone else as long as you experience.
You don't have the right to do it.
You don't have the right to swing your arms.
You don't have the right to hit someone else.
You don't have the right to hit someone.
It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as it's not detrimental to somebody else.
But if it does happen, if the situation is there is a hit,
mm-hmm.
This one person hit the other person. They were at the tea party.
Mm-hmm.
They're protecting the tea party, and so they're not there. There's more than one person experiencing a consequence there.
Yeah, there is.
Due to the actions of one of the people.
Correct.
Does that seem a little flawed?
There's going to be consequences from, like, there's always going to be multiple people who have consequences and it happen in any action. Right?
I mean, if he's swinging it around alone, not in school,
mm-hmm.
in his backyard alone, I guess
But then he's not hitting anyone.
Right. So there's no respect for the person not swinging their arms.
Yeah, there is. There is punishment for their rights being infringed upon.
Punishment after the fact. Is there any respect beforehand?
Yeah, that is known that there will be consequences if their rights have been violated.
But we don't want to lessen. So
I guess let's try it the other way. So if kid's swinging his fist, right? Let's just say that he's the right. Swinging the fist is the most peaceful thing. Like, him putting his fist through that space is the most just cause, right? But there's like some jerk face who wants to have a tea party right there. Well, now his hand's hurt because his hand was going where it's supposed to go, and this jerk face was sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, we both.
It's an absurd argument, but I'm just saying, like, if we take it from the other way. Yeah, but
like,
rights are still being violated.
Violence. That's.
the swinging your fist is just an example of somebody doing something.
Agreed.
Yeah, and as long as it
And
doesn't hit somebody else, you have the right to swing your fists around.
right. And the thing is, like, it's a risky activity. It's inherently a risky, like, and that's the real issue, is that when you're doing something inherently risky, that's not just risky to yourself, maybe you are not necessarily just about the consequence, but it's like, okay, you get to have this motorcycle, but you need an additional license to get it. There is a higher bar because you're doing a more inherently risky activity, because swinging your arms is more risky than having a tea party. So therefore, here's some gloves, so that if you do go out of bounds in your inherently risky activity, that it's the person that by no fault of their own is experiencing the consequence, that consequence is lessened for them out of respect for them.
Well, so I mean, in your motor, like, but I mean, how does that? I guess I'm maybe confusing like how that is any different, because they still got hit. Like, how does that lessen it?
If I've been hit with a glove and without a glove.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm just saying like, yes, in that analogy, but like when we switch to the motorcycle, I'm saying like, how does an extra license help somebody have a lessened impact for the actions of a motorcycle person?
Yeah, it's
like, yeah, it's very clear in like we'll just call it boxing analogy.
Sure.
But I don't think that like it necessarily equates to like the analogy breaks down pretty quick.
Well, I think what it points out is that we probably need more regulation on motorcycles. we need more protection for the people riding motorcycles and the people, because that's really what the protections are. When
the additional license, I thought that was the additional license should just weed out people who have motorcycles.
It's training. It's training. It's similar like people with guns. It's an inherently risky activity, swinging your arms, motorcycle, guns, and we as a society realize that we need to, just allow it, but in a sort of measured way, because we're capable of abstract thought and planning a bit ahead,
So, and again, I think this is maybe where we're I think this is another area where we disagree, because what I'm saying is the social contract. I'm saying the social contract, the knowledge that you are going to get punished for hitting someone when you swing your fist, is that precaution, and that we don't need to put gloves on the kid.
And that
I'm saying, I guess this is, I think, again, where a common breakdown of where we disagree, or where we differ in opinion, is I think that it is the social contract and culture is more important for instilling the safety valves here, whereas you generally tend to think that it is the government's place to do such things.
Well, it's all of the above. It's all of the above. It's from individual down to all the way up to the federal government. It's everybody's responsible, and they need to be. We can't just treat every activity the same. And that's not bad.
I mean, that's granted, but I'm still talking like in principle here. Like, I don't disagree with you. Like, yes, it would be a good idea to put the gloves on the kids. I'm just saying that we don't necessarily inherently have the right, nor does the government have the right to dictate that you have to have gloves on.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily.
And that is to bring it back, because I think we're now probably at more than an hour. The concern, as the avatar of conservatism, that Republicans losing both Senate races, is that we will head towards everyone now has to wear gloves. Oh, and now we need to wear even bigger gloves. You know what? Why don't you just sit down and have a tea party?
That's
Swinging
slippery.
your arms is too dangerous. Why don't you just have a tea party? That's nice and safe.
Yeah, and I think that our the way that our government is set up with the respect to the minority that is built in very strongly is that it won't go to everybody must have a tea party. But putting little buffer is reasonable. But these are disagreements.
That's fair, but I would argue that the human experience is that a little buffer becomes a large buffer very quickly.
Slippery slope. A critical thinking book would.
But I mean, so you can call it a slippery slope however if you want. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is inherent in human nature. Is if the fence is here, but the thing on the other side is dangerous, then we build a new fence in front of that fence.
So you're anti-fence.
In this analogy, I'm anti-fence.
So I think this is a great ending point because I'm now defending the Tea Party.
You are defending
against the
defending fence. No, I'm saying fences are bad. We shouldn't keep putting fences up. You only need one fence.
Just the one fence.
Just the one fence.
That makes sense.
If one fence isn't going to stop you, then why are we building any more? Like, why are we building more fences? Yeah. All right. Well, Jeremy Jones, we've had a mostly political conversation. I believe
this was highly theoretical.
This was highly theoretical. I don't have alcohol at the moment. Do I have water?
Oh. I got a little bit left, like mostly water.
I've got a tiny bit of tea. Yes, I am pretty much out. So anyway, we were friends before.
Friends during?
We had friends after.
Friends after. Cheers, buddy.
I did it backwards. All right.
I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
More politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheersings.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.